anybody really got to grips with it in any clear way. I mean, the key thing to me was that these were industries that had creativity as an input. That's the core definition that people were using. Somehow it was creativity. First question to be asked then is, what's not creative? What isn't creative really? I mean, John Howkins' book, Creative Economy, all well, as you know, well touted around various places. But what it covers is a whole range. I mean, it's design, trademarks, but it's intellectual, copyright, patents. They cover science quite clearly. It's science right the way through. It's just like information covers business service information and all those sort of things. So the idea that somehow creativity as an input can define the creative industries has never really stood up. And I think as soon as anybody has attempted to define it, they've had to go back. It's a certain kind of creativity, if you want to put it like that, a certain type of creativity. But I think it's a real problem. Because then, as I say, what's not creative? Now, I think in reality, what got counted as creative industries in the DCMS's 13 definitions, and it's not really strayed from too much. What was included under them was what used to be called cultural industries. I mean, you might quibble about the addition of fashion, certain aspects of design, but in my experience, they were usually considered under cultural industries in some ways. And art was certainly included by the DCMS, the art, if you want to call it like that. So, what was new, I think, was the addition of software. And this, of course, was the most controversial issue at the time. And Nick Garner wrote he wrote a critique of it in 2005, saying, the creative industries were just invented so they could include software figures in their employment statistics. And some of that might have been true, some might not have been true. But when you begin to look at it, it's actually, I think Nick Garner's point has more and more weight. I'm not showing these on screen. There's a report recently came out. I'll show you this. It's the Creative Industries Economic Analysis. It's by an Australian group called the, I can remember the name, Centre for International Economics. And it's quite a good read actually, because the first thing that struck me was that it was no different from what many people were doing in the 90s, cultural industries. They get down to the 4 code statistics, and there's a few ins and outs. But it's interesting what they exclude. So, for instance, they don't count infrastructure. They say we're looking at creative activities. So infrastructure is not in, so libraries are not in, video shops are not in, galleries are not in, curators aren't in. So it strips out, quite interestingly, following that line, it strips out all those sort of things from that would usually be included, I suppose. But the most interesting thing is that 40%, and there's another measure which we call IGP, anyway, 40% of employment is software development and interactive content. There it is. So, all the little parts, it's nearly half, well, it's just under half of the sector. So any finessing around should, software be in or out. I think it's a real major issue. And when they go into it, they see it. Well, these people, they strip out some certain things out, but they include people involved in software development. And it strikes me immediately that how on earth can that be called? Well, if it is a creative input, why isn't electrical engineering a creative input? What the people who made the iPods, and I don't just mean the designer, but the actual do the gubbins in the middle of it. Manufacturing, high level, and not industrial design. But why aren't they in it?